Welcome back. So in the last video, we defined what a function is. So again, a function is a relation where every input produces only one output. In other words, if you give me the same, if I'm a function machine, or if I'm a function, and you always give me the same input, I'm always going to give you the same output. So let's take a look at some examples. And we're going to look at tables in this video. In the next video, we're going to look at some graphs. So this first one, this is kind of like another vending machine or a candy machine. So the input, we could kind of assume the input's in the top, but just we know what a vending machine does, how a vending machine works. So the button number, that's going to be the input. And the type of candy that comes out, that must be the output. Okay, so what you're really looking for is anytime an input gives you two different outputs. So let's take a look here. When I plug in input, push button number 1, out comes a Stix candy. Okay, let's see, do I ever push number 1 again? Actually I do right here. And out comes a Stix. So it looks so far that whenever I push number 1, button number 1, out comes a Stix candy bar, which is good. Again, it is consistent. If I push number 3, out come duds. And while it's not really, we can't really say what's going to happen again since we don't actually see button number 3 being pushed a second time, you kind of have to just assume that that's okay. So if it only shows up once, then we have no evidence to say that it's not a function machine, so we're going to have to just kind of check it off. And same thing with button number 4, spitting out M&Ns, so that's fine too. But take a look at our duds here. When I push, take a look at button number 2 here. When I push button number 2 the first time, it spits out M&Ns. But when I push it again later, out come duds. So the question I ask then is, if I push it again the second time, what's going to happen? Well, you have no idea what's going to come out. Might come out M&Ns, might come out duds, heck, might come out something else. And so this tells us that this one, number 1 here, is not a function machine. So actually I'm going to write that down here. Oops, should have maximized that. I apologize. Number 1 is not a function. Because an input, and I'll say exactly why, the input 2 produces 2 different, so maybe I should specify what I mean by the input 2. When I say the input, I mean the input button number to button 2 produces 2 different outputs, and that makes it not a function. If it was a function, button number 2 should always give M&Ns, or always duds, but not 2 different ones. If we look at number 2 here, machine number 2, again, this one's weird because we have to figure out which one's the input and the output. Remember, when I see this f of x thing, the thing inside the parentheses is the input, and so that's going to be x here. So x is the input. This bottom row down here, f of x, is the output. So just like how I was saying before, we have to the only way we could see that something is inconsistent is if there's an input that comes up twice. Unfortunately, in this one, there's 7, -2, 0, 4, 9, -3, and 6. Since they're all different, we can't see any inconsistencies, so we have to just kind of let it go. So since nothing is wrong, we have to kind of just say it's okay. So no inputs have, and this one's small enough that I can kind of fit here, multiple outputs. So it is a function. It's kind of like saying someone's innocent until proven guilty. we haven't proved it's not guilty of not being a function, so it is considered a function. Last one here. Again, our inputs are going to be x, or sorry, our in. That's going to be our input, and our y is the output. And let's see. So you're looking for any input that is tested twice. And so I think the only one that I see is input of x equals 2. And hey, look at this. When I plug in x equals 2, the first time we get a 9 out, and the second time I get a -8 out. So again, just like example number 1 here, this one is not a function. Not a function. Because an input of 2 produces 2 different outputs. And I'll specify that here. They spits out 9, and then it also spit out -1. And just like over here, the first one, it spit out M&Ns and duds. Alright, so hopefully that helps you figure out if you have a table, can I figure out if it's a function or not? Again, the only way you would be able to tell if it's not a function is if there's an input that shows up twice. So again, that would be these green ones, because you saw, hey, we checked button number 2 twice and we got 2 different candies. Alright, so hopefully that helps. And in the next video, again, we're going to talk about how to figure out if a graph shows a function or not.